school hours. I mentioned
Right, that's the elementary school hour case is a follow-up to the combining routes with the high school and middle school busing and making a 5-minute adjustment to the elementary days. So starting at 8:35 and dismissing at 3:35. The principals and I discussed it at our administrative meeting at the end of June of Waterford, and that's what the recommendation is coming back.
Does this depend on whether the high school chooses to go along with this? Are we going, have you heard anything from high school?
I have not. I believe it's, the last I've heard is it's an action item this month on their agenda.
Okay.
So, if I'm not mistaken, they're meeting Wednesday, and we should know something by Monday.
So it,
What I was going to do is list it as an agenda item, as an action item for the full board next Monday, because it requires a full board vote. So I just brought it to the committees and information on it.
okay.
Have we had any more information from the bus company if 5 minutes is what we need, or was that the last one they weren't clear on that?
Right. Prior to that conversation with the bus company, I had actually asked that question, and they felt that the scenario or the schedule that they had given us was a worst-case scenario, arriving a few minutes late. I believe a trail sign that Woodfield being on time with all the routes here at Evergreen. When I said, would it be a comfortable accommodation if we just bumped 5 minutes, and they agreed that that would be really, really nice if we were able to do that. Obviously, there's still going to be those winter days where no matter what, they may be running behind. But like I said, they told me at that particular time when I asked that question that Donna just asked, that that was a worst case scenario, but they would greatly appreciate if we got it at 5 minutes.
And are they planning to get it in August like we had talked about?
Right, I need to circle around with them to see how they're doing with the route analysis, especially over Mary and I have been corresponding with them as far as probably the public relations angle of things, how they're going to communicate to families about route location, pick up and drop off locations and route numbers and all that type of stuff. So I guess what I'm saying is the communication's been really positive and ongoing.
Are there similarities to the previous bus company?
There are similarities and there are going to be a couple changes too.
We are going to take audience participation after we communicate with the rest of the items on this. Okay.
Well, I thought you were taking questions about the K-4 program right after the speaker.
We did have one principal in the audience here who directly was affected by it, and I did address her. We have one principal that I addressed, allowed her to speak.
Well, I apologize. I thought you had said that after the speaker was finished, he would
No,
also come.
there are 2 more agenda items.
Okay.
And then we'll get to it.
All right, thank you.
Anything else on?
Down on the bus.
So just clarify, the bus doesn't have any effect this year, it's next year.
Starts this fall.
Was it our contract in this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to clear that. We already did it last year.
Informational items, state initiatives.
State initiatives, I provided you an update as far as the 2 significant initiatives that are going on at the state level that affect every district in the state. Those 2 initiatives, one is the Smarter Balanced Assessment System, and basically what that is it's a transition from WGSD as we know it to a computerized based assessment system, and that assessment piece occurs more than once a year, very similar to the MAPS part that we currently have in place. One of the flashing questions that the district will need to consider once the Smarter Balanced Assessment piece is in place is, do we need to continue MAPS or not? So that's a question that we have. Believe it or not, the Smarter Balanced Assessment piece also trickles all the way from kindergarten all the way up to high school. At the kindergarten and 4K level, they have the PALS assessment, which is a literacy assessment, the reading readiness assessment, that actually started last year. This current school year, then, or this coming school year, expands to first grade and 4K. Then 2 years out, it actually expands up to second grade. At the high school level, they have what's called the ACT Suite, so it's a group of tests provided by the ACT testing company that all students are going to be required to take, in addition to the piece that's going to come out at the elementary level. The other question that isn't clear to us yet is what the Smarter Balance Assessment is really focused so far on literacy, which is the reading, the writing part, and then the math part. So the question that we don't know yet and have an answer to is what does social studies and science look like? So that part needs to be clarified. There are pilot districts operating on this, and we're waiting for more information. But that we're a year out on that, but I just wanted to keep you in the loop as far as that informational item. The second informational item, which also affects every district in the state and pretty much every classroom and every principal, is the Educator Effectiveness Initiative, and that also starts next school year, 2014-2015. And it involves specific evaluation processes for teachers and principals, and those are related to goal setting, but also formal observations. Districts have a choice of which observation process they want to follow. We're going to follow the one that we already have in place because it's more familiar to everyone here. And then, so our administrators are going to be trained in the updated system of that eventually. We are running a pilot this year with 2 teachers, 2 principals, myself, and a peer reviewer. And ideally, the state is going to fund the technology requirements of this initiative too. So I just wanted to let you know that that's also on the radar in the coming years.
What would be the technology requirements be?
The requirements of the technology pieces are having access to the software product that the state has contracted with. It's called TeachScape. And basically, after the principal goes in and observes, they need to log into TeachScape and enter the data that they receive and get sent out. And then teachers would also have access to TeachScape to upload their goals in their artifacts of things that they've collected or done to reach the goals. The biggest concern so far with the educator effectiveness piece is administrative time, because each teacher needs to do this every year. And the principal needs to meet with each teacher 3 times a year. So it's a matter of where's the time going to come from to meet, have the goal meeting in the fall, do the check-in meeting in the winter, and then the exit meeting in the spring with all your teachers. And then get the necessary work finished for the state and submitted. So that's a concern statewide as far as the workload and still running buildings principal. So that's the biggest question that's out there that I just share with you. But that's the update on the 2 informational items as far as the state initiatives that are big and significant at this point.
And the last item we had is the future dates. You have a list of your suggested dates.
Right. We can take this up next week at the full board meeting, but basically it's a list of suggested committee nights and then full board meeting nights for the rest of the school year moving into July of 2014. And the idea is just to get these all way ahead of time for all of our planning purposes. The question that I had obviously is, last year we had scheduled, actually I think maybe it's a couple of years consecutively, we scheduled the annual meeting the same night as the October board meeting. Did you want to do that again? Because we're going to have to announce that annual meeting in August sometime. Or did you want to have it on separate nights? The only requirement by statute is that it's done by October 30th. Okay? And then we need to have a separate meeting to certify the levy before it's either November 6th or November 7th. And so that's the piece that is important there. My recommendation is, as your superintendent, is that we hold that annual meeting later in October like we did last year because of the state aid piece, because we could very well receive an adjustment on the state aid based on the preliminary information we got a couple of weeks ago.
That's something that I've been pushing for years, is
Right.
to not have a meeting until after we know
What the numbers are.
And so I'm in agreement with them. Our intent is to have committee meetings on the first Monday and the board meeting is on the third Monday. And I see there are some changes to that, such in January, where there's going to be people off on vacation.
Right.
But
You're right, Paul, there's deviation from the first Monday of every month, and some of that has to do with when holidays are falling, or the first of the month, because you won't have month-end reports ready the second day of the month.
I see that in December.
Yeah, that's the tricky part.
Do you have any comments on that schedule?
And I think that it makes sense to do the annual meeting and the board meeting the same day.
I agree.
I agree with that, but I'm not quite sure I agree with having it just late in the year. For example, high school, we have it in August.
Yes, it
Is that
does.
kind of irrelevant to think anyways what the state does, because we have to certify it for it.
That's true. The tricky part is the budget presentation to the community. The board has to be willing to make an adjustment in the levy if they need to, based on the state aid adjustment in October.
Yeah.
If you change anything in the budget after you've already approved it, you have to post everything in the paper and go through the whole process again.
No, that's not true. Once we do the annual, and it's okay at the annual.
If there are budget adjustments, we do have to publish those. I know you
We have to
have,
publish the budget adjustments. We don't have to have another meeting.
that's
to
correct.
approve it, which we do every year anyways.
What Mary's saying though is that it does generate extra
Yeah,
clerical stuff on
you just have to
our
republish the
end.
budget you're going to be approving. Right?
Are you bringing this to the meeting?
Right, you'll need to act on this as a whole board.
I mean, my thoughts are I'd almost rather keep it around the high school's time if everybody's thinking about budgets. And they're going to look at the high school budget, let them look at the high school budget and the elementary budget at the same time.
I prefer we handle it, and
Fine.
if my former committee member agrees with it, we'll bring it to the board.
It's gonna be an action item next week anyway,
Okay.
so that is the
All right.
question.
And, anything else on that?
The only piece that, there are two other things. The first piece is that another action item for next week is going to be to repeal policy 691. And I'm just sharing that with you now because it's a duplicate of policy 664. Okay, and it's just the fund balance policy. So I just wanted to tell you about that now. The only other piece I wanted to add before we turn it over to Mr. Doherty's question is regarding 4K. A reminder to the committee, and we can certainly talk about this next month. We have an option of running a Title I preschool. So if you want to run a pilot without expense, you've got that option. It's not anything that we have to have in place September 1. Okay, because we would need to identify children, have the criteria to identify children, identify staff member, get the curriculum up and running, get the transportation organized, all that. The point is, though, is if you want to try that as a pilot, we're going to need a decision on that within the next month, though, so we can get rolling on it. So we've got something in place at some point, either late fall or early winter. But I just want to keep that in front of you. It is an option, rather than totally walking away from a yes or no.
I'll just step forward.
Sure. There's a microphone right up here.
Don't mean to yell from the back of the room. I apologize for that.
I can do that, but